You're listening to IELTS and OET exam coaching with Kev, the English native, helping you get the scores you need in high-stakes English exams.
Hello, it's Kevin here. Time for another episode of my podcast, IELTS OET with the English native. That's me, Kev. Oh dear, so it's Boxing Day, St. Stephen's Day, the day after Christmas Day. And I've got a bit of time before my next class on my talkie. No rest for me over Christmas. Now, I want to talk about something for the IELTS. This happened with a student just last week, and I thought I might make an episode. I've written about it before, but I don't think I've made a podcast about it. But if I did, that was in the previous season, some time ago. Was it a year now? Or 2 years now? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, we're talking about idioms. When the idioms, and IELTS speaking, make you sound weird. What do I mean? Well, today we're talking about something that looks advanced, or you would think so, sounds fluent, like it might improve your fluency, but it can make you sound oddly unnatural in IELTS speaking. Idioms. Now, this is because I had a student recently who he wasn't speaking in all idioms the entire time, but he was using far too many idioms. The problem was density, too many, and they weren't appropriate for that context. So it sounded like he had memorized a load of idioms, but it was using too many too often, and they didn't fit. Examiner is going to notice that immediately. So it sounded like it was a performance rather than simply talking, which is what they want. They want you to be natural, want you to, talk to them naturally. That's what examiners want. If you look at that Road to IELTS, that course they had a year or two back, they were asking examiners, what do you want to hear? And they said, well, we want you to be as natural and native-like as possible. So, in this episode, I'm going to show you why it happens, give you some examples and a framework to fix it. So, the problem, let me show you. So, in one short part one answer about keys, it was something from one of the recent ones. It said something about, do you carry keys? And he said, they are the bane of my life. My memory went black. I was in a pickle. It's a no-brainer. Okay, now, the bane of my life. Carrying keys, that's the bane of your life. Okay, sounds a bit dramatic. I was in a pickle. Okay, that's good. My mind went blank. Okay, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, but when it comes one after the other. So, keys, yes, I have many keys in the bane of my life. Once my memory went blank and I was in the pickle. It was when it comes one after the other. Sounding like a list. Not natural communication. Now, here's a key point. In IELTS speaking, you don't just get extra points just because you used an idiom. You get points for sounding natural, clear, and in control with flexible vocabulary you can use accurately. Okay? Now, there's three big reasons why it can backfire. Idiom stacking. Too many in one answer. Examiner thinks memorized answers. The wrong vibe for the topic. Some idioms are playful, casual, jokey, but the question might be neutral or serious. That mismatch creates a strange tone. I was asking about how often did he do something, I asked him about have you ever lost your keys, and he said once in a blue moon. Okay, but you wouldn't use that. Once in a blue moon means something happens rarely or infrequently, but this question was, have you ever lost your keys? So that didn't work. You wouldn't say that. Yeah, you might say never, often, but you wouldn't say I have lost my keys once in a blue moon. That doesn't work. So, or the idioms are almost right. It's that thinking is like, as I touch a bone, I think he meant a touch a nerve. You know, like to be honest or get to the point. It's sort of like have a piece to me. I think he meant a piece of cake. You know, so if you get it almost right is wrong, pulls you down. So what you've got to do, here's a good framework. You can use them, but just use one idiom per answer and paraphrase it, right? So instead of saying, my mind went blank, I was in a pickle, it's a no-brainer, you could say, my mind went blank. I mean, suddenly I couldn't remember, or I was in a pickle. Basically, I didn't know what to do in that moment. So you use an idiom, then paraphrase it in plain English, not stacking the idioms one on top of another. Let's take a look at some more, right? So back to the keys. Right? So the keys are the bane of my life. My mind went blank. I was in a pickle. It's a no-brainer. So a natural way. Honestly, I don't carry many keys now because most things are digital. But yes, I've lost them before. And for a minute, I couldn't remember where I put them. In the end, I asked for help and sorted it out. Okay, that's calmer, clearer, answers the question. So keys have been of my life. My mind went blank. I was in a pickle. It's a no-brainer. And so again, that one about once in a blue moon. Yeah. So that was like, that's, you know, that is fine. But it was asking, have you ever lost your keys? Like I said, and he said once in a blue moon. What you'd actually say is actually no. I've never lost my keys. Well, it's pretty rare. I don't lose them often. Or, you know, that's better. Or there was another topic on friends. So we had a cluster. Shoulder to cry on, fair weather friends, chew the fat. Again, individually, that sounds good. Yeah, but he used them all, one after the other. He said, so like, I have a small group of friends, they act as a shoulder to cry on, fair weather friends, I like to chew the fat. It was one after the other. So, natural, you know, you could say, well, I prefer a small circle. I know lots of people, but I only have a few close friends. We usually grab a coffee and catch up about work life. Now, catch up's good. Chew the fat. It's a bit more, I don't know if it's Americanized. I wouldn't use it. But catch up, that's what most people say because it's perfectly natural. Yeah? Traffic jams, you know, you say traffic jams are a headache or a bit of a pain. You could say that. But to make it better, you could say the traffic in my area is really frustrating. Wastes time, it affects everyone's mood. So better lexical control. So when you think about it, right, as I keep saying to my students, what you need to do is think, imagine you're speaking to a friend, right? You're speaking to a friend. And what would be natural if you were talking to a friend? The second thing, does it add meaning? Or is it simply speaking for the sake of speaking? Actually, this is explained very clearly in OET for medical English. OET speaking specifically says, if you've got no reason to say a thing, don't say it. That's what they say. Is the topic, is the language, is it the right register or tone? Is it serious or neutral or jokey? And can you explain it in simple English, in paraphrase? Now, as I keep saying, and this is the same for writing, if you're not 100% sure, don't use it. If you're not 100% sure, don't use it as a strategy, right? Then at least you won't be losing marks. You might not gain them, but you won't be losing. So, if you're 100% sure that it's natural, use it. If you're not, then don't. And that's it. Idioms aren't banned, but if you do idiom overload, It makes you sound rehearsed and memorised, which this guy obviously was, because he kept getting 666, 5.5, 666. So that kind of, gives the game away. So almost right idioms are worse than not using them. All right? So just use one and make sure you're 100% sure that it actually works. Okay? So I hope that helps. It's a bit of a short one for today. I've got some students coming soon on italki. So I'll see you soon, and I won't see you, you will hear me. But again, that's an expression. I'll see you soon. Anyway, till next time. Bye for now.
That was IELTS and OET exam coaching with the English Native. Kev Dean. Find out more at theenglishnative.com.